Are you preparing for your medical school interview and feeling lost? Today's video is going to cover the things you should know before your med school interview, including why you need to prepare, why it's important to prepare for the interview formats, best success strategies, and things to avoid. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm one of the admissions associates here at BeMo. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe on whatever social media channel you're watching this from now so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. If you would like us to help you get ready for your medical school interview, visit BeMoMedInterview.com to schedule your free initial consultation. As a quick tip, check out the timestamps in the description of this video to navigate to specific sections of the video that you're interested in. Here's what we're going to cover today. Medical school interview prep. Should you get professional help? What professional help can provide? Preparing for specific interview formats, panel and MMI. What you need to do before the interview. Get in touch right away. Determine your interview's format. Practice with mock interviews. Know yourself and research. By the way, we're giving away $50 Amazon gift cards every week to the best comments and questions. So comment below for your chance to win. There's this one thing that will dramatically increase your results with medical school interviews, and I'll explain that in the end of the video. Be sure to keep watching to find out. Now let's get started. This is hopefully a no-brainer. You should prepare for your interview because preparation is the key to success. Professional athletes prepare for games the same way a presenter prepares for a presentation. It makes sense that if you prepare, your performance will be better. And shouldn't you be doing everything possible to improve your performance? Keep in mind that the success rate at most medical schools is below 10%, with many accepting less than 4% of all applications. If you've made it to the interview stage of the application process, you could be so close to acceptance or so far away, depending on your performance. Hundreds of other students have also made it to the interview stage, and the spots available are far less than the interviews offered. When determining the final ranking order of candidates, some schools weigh the interview as high as 100%, meaning all of the other factors such as your MCAT score, personal statements, secondary essays, extracurricular activities, shadowing, etc. won't make up for a mediocre interview performance. The interview will certainly make or break your chance of acceptance, and if you don't do well on your interview, at those odds, you won't be accepted. In fact, we had a student with a near perfect MCAT and GPA score, and they seek out our help after being rejected during the previous admission cycles. The answer to this question isn't as obvious as the first one. While many students understand the value and importance of preparing with a professional, some students believe that they can fully prepare for their medical school interview on their own or with the help of family and friends. While some practice is better than no practice, quality will always be better than quantity, and the quality that a professional can bring is unmatchable. Practicing on your own is definitely a good step to take, but it's only one step of the process, and it's the most beneficial once you already know exactly what you should be practicing. Students often target their studies and practices in the wrong areas. For example, learning everything they can about a school and who the evaluators may be. While this is an important aspect to consider, it's not the only aspect of the interview to prepare for. Unfortunately, due to the majority of time focused on incorrect areas, students are often left with a false sense of preparedness when really they're not prepared at all. The other flaw with practicing on your own is that there are no opportunities to receive feedback. It's not easy to learn your weaknesses or determine all areas you need to improve on without someone else pointing them out to you. You may think you've prepared a great answer for a question and spent a lot of time practicing your response, when really that response may be flawed and doesn't highlight your best self. A qualified person is one that has received extensive training, has in-depth knowledge and countless experiences with interview questions, and they know what the admissions committee is looking for, how to answer questions in such a fashion to highlight an individual's skills, passions, and experiences. Now, that's not to say that everything your family and friends may tell you is invalid, but the bottom line is their feedback has not been and cannot be verified or qualified. A solution to all of these problems is to use a professional medical school advisor or medical school admissions consultant for your medical school interview preparation. A professional advisor doesn't know you personally, and because of that, they are able to provide you with objective, unbiased feedback. A good advisor will be an expert in the medical school admissions process, and because of that, will be well trained, possess tremendous experience working with students, and should boast a reliable, evidence-based success rate for helping students get accepted into medical school. The short answer: everything. An excellent professional advisor will be able to help you with all aspects of your medical school interview prep. The old saying, "there is no right or wrong answer," does not apply for almost all interview questions. If, for example, you're asked on your interview, "Why do you want to be a doctor?" and your answer is simply because you want to help people and make a difference, that would be considered a wrong answer, lacking reflection, depth, passion, and proof. Even worse, it would sound cliche. A professional advisor will work one-on-one with you to help expand your answers, highlight your strengths, strengthen your weaknesses, and call off-topic responses. They know what questions to expect during your interview, so they will help you prepare accordingly. So, how should you prepare for different med school interview formats? Let's go over the most common med school interview types. The most two common interview types are panel interviews and MMI interviews. The panel interview is the long-standing assessment tool used at most traditional medical schools to assess candidates' personality and characteristics. It can represent a large percentage of the ranking weight, or it can be used as a rubber stamp for candidates whom the school is likely to accept based on their primary and secondary applications. If you're at a loss for how to prepare for your multiple mini interview, the MMI, you have come to the right place. MMI is notoriously difficult to get ready for and greatly affects medical school acceptance rates. You can increase your chances of success by implementing a few tactics I will cover in this video. You will learn about MMI structure, MMI myths and facts, and get answers to any question you may have about the MMI. Let's have a closer look at these interview formats. What is a panel interview? The interview consists of 1 to 4 panelists per candidate. The panelists will most often represent medical school faculty and current students or residents. The panel may also have a community representative, and the use of non-medical persons was standard for most universities before they adopted the multiple mini interview. The questions can range from a casual review of your CV to a standardized set of behavioral interview questions. Behavioral interview questions include, "Tell me about a time when you were in conflict with supervisors," or "What is your greatest weakness?" Panel interviews are still used because they're far easier and far cheaper to implement than the MMI. They're also more free in that interviews can follow up on red flags without worrying about getting into other questions. As far as rubber stamps go, they work well, but most medical schools are moving towards a system where interviews really matter for candidate assessments, and the best evidence is for multiple mini interviews. When asked to describe situations, always ensure that you are concisely describing the setting, the problem, the action you took, and the resolution of the problem, so that your response actually answers the question and ensures that you come across as an active, coherent communicator. The SHARE model is the one recommended across the board if you need a more structured approach to the behavioral interview questions. Let's take a look at the SHARE model and how it works. S. Situation. Interviewers ask candidates to describe a particular situation. H. Hindrances. Interviewers want you to identify challenges and hindrances you encountered. A. Actions. Explain your actions. R. Results. Examine the results. E. Evaluate. Evaluate the lesson learned. The overall goal of the panel interview is to come off as likable, personable, and a scholar, able to describe why they've taken on the job, educational opportunities, research, travel, sports, music, and personal endeavors on their CV. Ensure that the interview is a nice, positive back and forth between you and the interviewers, and that you're not leaving them wanting more. What is the MMI? The MMI is a situational judgment test comprised of 8 to 12 stations, including 1 or 2 rest stations. It allows different interviewers to assess your reaction to different types of questions and scenarios that reflect real-life situations. Your interviewers may be practicing professionals, faculty members, senior students, administrators, and members of the public. Each station typically lasts 8 minutes and is structured in the following manner. Number 1, before you enter the room. You have about 1 or 2 minutes to read a prompt and formulate your response before you enter the interview room. Number 2, enter the room. Once the buzzer goes off, you enter the interview room. 3, inside the room. You will have 4 to 8 minutes to give your response to the interviewer. 4, leave the room. A buzzer will sound, indicating that it is time to leave the room. 5, next station. Move on to the next station. It is important to remember that your answer should be clear and concise. So instead of focusing on using all the time that is given to you, try to articulate a well-rounded, quality answer in 4 minutes. Remember, a total of 8 minutes is given to you per station, which includes your introduction, summary of the prompt, and goodbye. You should aim to answer the original prompt in 4 minutes, leaving a couple of minutes for any follow-up questions the interviewer might have. How are you assessed in the MMI? The interviewers are instructed to rate your performance relative to all applicants they see. They will score your communication skills, strengths of arguments displayed, and suitability for the profession on a scale from 1, the lowest, to 10, the highest. Other things that influence your score may be your problem-solving skills, ethical and moral values, professionalism, negotiation, cooperation, leadership, integrity, and time management. Although these categories are not included in the score sheet, they create a general impression of your personality and might influence your overall score. What you need to do before the interview. Preparation is the key to success, as the well-worn cliche goes, and medical school interviews are no exception. One of the most stressful aspects of student life is abiding by often strict or overlapping deadlines, resulting in cramming for tests, all-night essay writing sessions, and many other unpleasant instances of racing against the clock. Your interview for medical school requires copious preparation, but if you get started early, you can have a pleasant and productive experience that leaves your committee with a clear sense of your fit for their program. How early is early enough? Starting the day you're invited is certainly good, but earlier than that is even better. Unfortunately, some medical schools will only give you a couple of weeks' notice, so it's wise to start preparing for a potential interview shortly after applying. If you do start that early, focus on basic info gathering like schools' interview formats, common medical school interview questions, and other more general information. Part of the benefit of starting early is that you won't have to cram with an imminent deadline hanging over you. So, take your time and seek to really understand what you may be heading into. Once you receive your invitation, it's time to really get to work. Get in touch right away. The very first thing you need to do in preparing for your medical school interview is respond to your interview requests immediately. No one likes to be kept waiting, and given the volume of students most interview committees need to process, their time is especially short and strained. Assuming you're grateful for the opportunity when you hear back from medical schools, you owe it to them to be as prompt as possible. If you don't respond promptly, you'll give the impression that you're not especially interested in the school or program. Determine your interview's format. The next thing you'll want to find out is what format your interviews will take. You could be participating in a group interview, a traditional interview, a panel interview, or a multiple mini interview. To prepare effectively, you need to know which of these interview types is being used by your medical schools of choice. Most interview invites will outline this information for you, including both interview format and what to expect on the day of the interview. Practice with mock interviews. Once you've determined your interview's format, it's time to start practicing with sample questions and real-life mock interviews. Practice questions like our MMI questions or medical school interview questions give you the opportunity to prepare for commonly asked questions and will give you an idea of what type of questions you can expect. Practice questions are certainly a good start, but the most valuable practice is to go through real-life mock interviews. Mock interviews provide the closest experience you can get to the actual interview and are therefore the best at bringing forth the real emotions you will experience, including stress, anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. The goal is to get those emotions under control through preparation, as well as familiarize yourself with the format and get personalized feedback on what to work on. Know yourself. Preparing for your interview takes a lot of self-reflection. You have to understand yourself, your choices, and your motivations in order to share them with others, which is exactly what you'll do in your interview. You can expect to be asked questions like, why medicine? Why do you want to be a doctor? And the dreaded, tell me about yourself. These questions are not easily answered on the spot. They need ample brainstorming and thoughtful reflection in order to have an earnest and believable response. Research. First, you need to learn about the school. Review their mission statement, their core values, their research opportunities, interesting developments, and important stories in the school's news section. Like the previous strategy, though, the goal is not purely robotic memorization. You want to gain a general understanding of what a school stands for, what is important to them, and what upcoming projects, research opportunities, facilities, etc. are important to you. During your research, you should always seek to connect this information to your own goals and interests, as these will be great talking points during your interview. It will even help your answer to the common "why our school" prompt, which often trips students up not out of total ignorance, but out of having too general an idea of why they've chosen it. Admissions committees know their school's reputation, standing, and general place in the medical education ecosystem, so seek to address points beyond the superficial facts. Other than learning about the school you'll be interviewing at, you also need to be in the know about hot topics and current events in the field of medicine. Make an effort to keep up to date on these issues and topics, as you'll likely be asked to share your opinion on specific policies or events. Check out our blog to learn more about medical school interviews and preparing for the different types. I've included links in the description of this video so you can find the blogs easily. If you would like us to help you prepare for a successful interview, visit BeMoMedInterview.com to schedule your free initial consultation. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, so please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. If you have any questions about medical school interviews that I did not cover in this video, let me know in the comments section and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Don't forget that we're giving away $50 Amazon gift cards every week to the best comments and questions. So comment below for your chance to win. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.